The reality is that we have a corrupt campaign finance system which separates the American people's needs and desires from what Congress is doing.
If you've got something to say, say it directly, but you will not find that I ever changed a view or a vote because of any donation that I ever received.
Clinton and Sanders in their last debate before the New Hampshire primary as Bernie Sanders maintains a healthy lead in the polls, but one overnight poll shows Hillary Clinton cutting Sanders' lead nearly in half. Karl Rove, of course, cautioning us on some of those numbers. Kevin McCullough is a talk show host for Salem Media Group. Chuck Rocha is a Democratic strategist and fellow at the Center for National Policy. It's great to have you both. We did have a requirement that everyone needed a goatee to appear on the program, so I'm glad the panel fulfills it. You both look great.
Absolutely.
Twins, I love it. Chuck, let me ask you about this issue with Wall Street. The relationship with Wall Street is something that Clinton is being attacked for, but it's being examined by the Democratic Party. Why is it such an issue right now?
Because there's lots of people out there that have not felt an economic recovery. I've been running campaigns for 25 years. It's always been low-hanging fruit for Democrats because people feel disconnected. Sure, they have a 401k and they keep track of it, but that's those guys with the money. And it's low-hanging fruit for us. And we've always run a commercial saying it's Main Street, not Wall Street. Well, now you see the gloves have come off in our primary and it's on. And last night was a heated debate that I was glad that we have, but we're always going to vilify somebody who's got all the money when the other folks are doing all the work.
Interesting. Kevin, what do you think about this issue? We talk a lot about the Tea Party for the conservative movement, but we can't forget that Occupy Wall Street happened during President Obama's term, and while Clinton was Secretary of State as well, unrelated, but that's a really strong movement for liberals. And I'm curious, as we discuss this, is that a strong enough movement still to really push back on the power of Clinton? How big of an issue do you think it'll be this time around?
Well, I've thought she's run a very clunky campaign from the beginning. It feels like she's running one of her husband's campaigns from his era. But here's the thing. Bernie's kind of executing an Obama game plan. He closed the gap in Iowa by appealing to young people and by talking about Wall Street corruption. Hillary's problem is she is trapped in an existence of the comfort of what she has had by way of her position and the old way of doing politics. But she's trying to appeal to a base that has moved away from the old Democratic Party. It's a much more progressive party. It's a much more, let's tear down capitalism. Let's do much more socialism. She's trying to appeal to one group while she's living in another existence, and it's not working for her.
Let me play a little bit more sound from last night, Chuck, because I'd like you to react to what Kevin has to say. This is how Hillary Clinton is fending off these attacks from Bernie Sanders. Let's play that sound.
Time and time again, by innuendo, by insinuation, there is this attack that he is putting forth, which really comes down to, you know, anybody who ever took donations or speaking fees from any interest group has to be bought. And I just absolutely reject that, Senator. And I really don't think these kinds of attacks by insinuation are worthy of you.
How good do you think is that defense, Chuck?
You know, it's hard when you're running in a Democratic primary, when you're trying to get Democrats to vote for you in a primary, and Bernie Sanders is using an attack that's going to work for him. She has to fend it off. I think it's hard to fend it off. I think it's a different defense if you're talking about a general election. I think that the campaigns, as they're looking forward, know that Bernie Sanders has a big lead in New Hampshire. She needs to build a firewall in the South and the Super Tuesday states. But in a Democratic primary, we've all seen these Democratic races come and go, but you see a central theme of being the inequality. So it's tough when you take those donations to have to talk about those, and Bernie Sanders has brought it up because he thinks it works.
Kevin, I want you to weigh in a second, but just staying with Chuck for a moment. Chuck, is this enough to hurt her, though? I mean, we know the polling in New Hampshire. Beyond New Hampshire, is it enough to hurt her?
Well, I'll tell you this, that Bernie was 50 points behind in Iowa when he caught her there, and he's 25 points up in New Hampshire. Something's working, whether it's this or something else.
Interesting. Kevin, is it enough to hurt her? This, again, this back and forth, it's going to continue. It's something that stays with her.
Normally, Hillary likes to be the victim or the underdog. You know, in her Senate race, the guy walked across the stage and pounded on her podium. And it's hard to be the underdog to a 74-year-old grandpa. And it's hard to be a person of the people when you are somebody who has used every step of your career to your advantage. You're marrying the husband you married, picking the state you wanted to run for the Senate from, using your foundation to do quid pro quos for the State Department and vice versa. I mean, she is a calculated strategist, and that's the very thing that Bernie's base is literally wanting to burn down.
Interesting. Both of you saying there's a little bit of an opening there. It's great to have you both. Don't shave, because we like the look. We want to make sure that we all
I think it's just code language, Jenna, for a bald temple. I think you're mocking us.
That's what it is. Bald and beautiful.
I was admiring it.
You tell them, Chuck.
Fair and balanced. That's right. Kevin and Chuck, great to have you both. Thank you very much.